Okay, hi there, guys. Hope we're doing well. Pete, Lauren, how are you both? How are you both? Just let me know if you can hear me loud and clear from clear and loud. Losing faith in you. I am. No, I just hooked up. Well, I've got them coming on. When are they coming? I'm getting my iNet, I think, coming through Thursday to hook it up on NBN. So I just want to make sure that's quick, reliable. I mean, it's got to be a lot quicker than what we got and a lot more reliable. So if that's the case, should do good. Otherwise, I'm just going nuts. I did try, Lauren. I don't know if I spoke to you since. I did try using the mobile SIM, chuck it in the modem for the 4G modem, and it doesn't fit to start with. And it wasn't. If I'm having a problem with one, I'm having a problem with both. It's more the 4G signal, and it's just was playing up. So that's why the internet, is constantly just you have these slow patches where you're getting upload speeds of about 1.5 when it should be somewhere around at least 12 through the modem and somewhere around 30 or so, 20 to 30 on the 4G network. There's a tower not far from us, so I can't understand why the speed just keeps dropping. I was had a coffee, I think it was the other day. I just tested the speed, and now we're up around, fending around 180 to 200 megabits per second upload. Download. So that's just nuts. So obviously you just had a tower just behind them somewhere, or they just had a clear run to the tower. Who knows? But that was a hell of a big difference to what I'm getting here. So hopefully the NBN solves the problem, and we're not going to get any dropouts, all that sort of stuff. At the moment, I've got it through the hotspot, which seems to be fine. So let me know if there's any issues. If you're getting buffering, you shouldn't. All the numbers seem stable, what I'm seeing at the moment. I think the problem with that, they have a few issues with the Wi-Fi connection. So as long as I don't, or the hotspot connection, as long as I don't move the phone, it's near the window, it's getting the best reception, and I just stay still, can't move the mouse. We should be good to go. But we'll see. If it does drop out, just bear with me because it's a matter of just starting it back up again. But I did have it running a test run through my own channel just as a bit of a test, and it seemed to be fine for 15 minutes or so. Didn't drop out once, no drop frames, which you can see. So all good. Now I'll get stuck into it. Welcome to TradeSetup in the live stream. We've got there the 3rd of June, so hopefully we see a bit of action coming into June. There was a bit of action last month anyway, so was it go away in May or sell and go away in May? I don't know if that's the case. So now it's become June as well as we keep still head down. So it'll be interesting to see how the US goes tonight. And my main focus just at the moment is on gold. Yeah, no, Will. I don't know about Telstra. I just can't. I've heard too many things about them, and Optus at the moment are not going down the same track either. So I figure if I'm going to go through NBN, I might as well try someone different. And so far, so good. They've been getting that many emails. Remember, we're coming. This many texts. The service seems to be there. So if they're right on top of it, then hopefully, if there is a problem, they'll get it sorted out rather than going through Optus and they don't even know what you're talking about half the time. I have to explain to them how their internet works. But we'll see how they go. So yeah, main focus at the moment is just on gold. I think just looking at the charts, it may be a bit jumpy. Gold at the moment, it has seemed to have broken out. Both Aussie gold and physical gold are both broken out of resistance zones or contraction as well, especially on gold. Aussie gold's dragged higher, which is looking good. And I think there's more of a case too, for putting money into gold, risk off into equities, and normally US dollar's been support, but at the moment maybe it's not going to if they're going to cut rates. So we'll chat about that in just a second. Firstly, I've got to say, hi Sharon, hi Shirley. Welcome to anyone that's new, anyone that listens to this later on. Thanks for joining us. We've got a Twitter channel. I haven't actually got it on the screen because I'm on the computer and it's going through the TV. So I haven't got that there, but we've got a Twitter channel. You can just search TradeSetup. I think it's _ TradeSetup, and you'll find us there on Twitter. Also linking to us on YouTube most important, I guess. You'll just find anything that pops up, you'll get a notification when we do go live on something. And today I mean, you can see we're down 53 points at the moment. We did have that push above 64. I think we just traded up to 65. Now we're back down to 63.43. You see the bottom left-hand corner on the ASX. Not looking so flash at the moment. So we'll bit of a look at that. I mean, we still got to remember this trend is up. I mean, that trend is up there. We've broken through this high. So even though, we're down 52 points, are we coming to a buy zone where it could, but it all depends, I guess. At the moment, it's depending a lot on what's happened in the US, what's happened in trade. Mainly for us between US and China. Obviously, that flows on into commodities. So we'll have to see how that plays out. Now, China, everyone would know by now. If you wake up Saturday morning like me, or if you even wake up in the middle of the night and look what they're doing, I've always got my phone handy right next to me, just checking what's happening over in the US, because either means a good weekend or a bad weekend sometimes. But yeah, you probably know by now that Trump is now taking fire at Mexico, and he seems to be asking a lot. He just seems to be. I swear he gets bored on the weekend, or he gets bored sometimes in the Oval Office. Goes, oh, I'll just go and pick on someone else. Calls a bit of a kerfuffle. So that's the way he's taken aim at Mexico. They've got, I think, by the June 10th, and it could be. I'm not sure if it's 25% tariffs on June the 10th, or from then they're going to impose tariffs up to 25% on imports, unless they stem the tide of illegal immigrants into the US. They stop them. Well, not stem it, but stop them. How are they going to do that? I mean, in all honesty, how are they going to do that? So it seems a big ask, and I think he is, again, he's playing, he's pandering to the voters, really, and that's the way he got in, and he's got to continue to pander to the same people so he does get re-elected. I don't know when the elections are coming up. Someone probably knows better than me. But yeah, just put it in if you do know. But I think that's what he's pandering to at the moment. Any talk of, Mexico, they can't build a wall probably. It's a bit ridiculous to build a wall. So, hey, you've got to let them do it, let them deal with it, let them pay the funds to stop the immigration, or we're going to tariff you. It'd be interesting to see. That's what's a week away now, on the 10th, to see what does happen. But obviously, the markets that, and I think China rhetoric, if I can say that properly, has kicked off as well. G'day, Gino. November 2020. All right, let's not forget about that then. So still plugging away. China and the US, that's sort of, that's what is going to affect us. And I think that the biggest issue now is whether they're going to start to talk and come together, or things are going to get blown out of proportion. Now they're looking at rare earths. We spoke about that. I think we spoke about that, unless we haven't streamed since then. We probably haven't. China cutting exports or something to the US for rare earths, and that's their next way, increasing their tariffs in a way. If the US in China's eyes, keep bullying them, trying to make a deal on tariffs. So if that rhetoric kicks off again with more and more negative tones, then that's really just going to keep the pressure on. I would expect to keep the pressure on the US, and in turn keep the pressure on us, because they're getting further away from making a deal. That's what the market doesn't want to see. I mean, if they do come out, something happens tonight, Trump just gets on Twitter again and says, oh, we're all good, we're all happy, and we're going to do something with China, and China is back on their negative tone, then the market could bounce and we might see a bit of a sell-off in gold. But at the moment, I think things, if they start to heat up, then this sell-off could get a bit harder in the US, and again, drag us down with it. So that's why, I mean, it's good having a bit of a focus on gold at the moment. There's a few stocks, obviously there's stocks moving, but gold's probably the one, I think, after looking at charts, I guess everyone has on gold, starting to break up, and they had a good, I think, was it Friday, they got sold down on our open, around our open. They were sold down at the end of the US session probably, and then they bounced. They basically bounced all Friday day and then bounced into the US session as well. I was expecting the whole time just for it to get sort of the top end of not the channel, but more that correction zone or the contraction zone, and then roll over, get some selling into the US Open, just chop around a bit, but instead they just kept going straight through. Now, I was reading somewhere about gold, and so if they're looking, the more Trump does tariffs, kicks off, and the longer this lasts, really the harder it's going to be for their economy. The economy is going to slow faster, or harder to kick off growth or remain growth. And you're already seeing figures at the bottom end of their inflation range, right at the bottom end of their inflation range, which means now the talk is rate cuts, 1 to 2 rate cuts in the US, which obviously takes a shine off the US dollar as a safe haven. And if the US dollar's pressing lower and potentially no one wants to borrow equities just yet, um, there's no risk going into equities. The only real, I mean, it's not really, they'll be going into safe haven, potentially gold and the yen, let's say. So if they jump into gold, that's going to get probably a bit of a pop on safe haven buying and the US dollar fall. So I think that could be, as long as things don't look too good, that could be a good little play. So if we look at gold, now I'm just going to figure out where I'm going. I'm going to move my mouse from the TV to the computer screen in front of me. That's what I want. And back again. There we go. So this is Aussie gold. I hope everyone can see that clear enough. You can see this is only on an hourly chart, but the trend is definitely higher. It was really this zone that got through. If we put it back to a daily, it is looking a little bit extended up. It is a bit extended up here, but look at the kind of move. We've come off this base, and I think I'm not sure if we spoke about this last, or it was in the last video that I put up instead of the stream. Hopefully everyone got that. If you had any questions, sorry, about the spreadsheet that we sent through, just let us know. Just let us know, or shoot through to an email to support@tradesetup.com.au, and I'll get back to you if you had any questions, or have get on the phone and have a bit of a chat as well if you like. But that's the trading software. It's not really software as such, but it's a nice little program we put together to help out. If you have any questions, let us know. I think we talked about gold in that. We had this big washout here. You can see at the moment, at this stage, you spiked up to that 1882, 1885 zone, resistance zone up here. That was initial spike, built a higher low, pressed back up. So you got essentially there you got a double top, which you do expect. Once you get double top, you're going to get some sort of selling pressure coming in, or at least buyers stepping aside until they see a clear signal to start diving back in. Because it's not always that. I wouldn't say 50-50, but if you get a double top, generally it's going to drag in sellers for shorts. But in essence, this is a key zone. So once you start getting this type of price action, grinding higher, then you get your lower high here. But that's the anchor level to this trend up. It's still holding. So that's what you be aware of. You don't just dive in thinking, we'll sell it here, expecting to go all the way back down to say 1660 or so, back down to this zone, or even somewhere in here, because it hasn't really broken the anchor. So that's your risk is that if it doesn't break the anchor, it's going to reverse, and then it's going to squeeze out all the shorts that have built up. You can see the shorts that would have built up all the way through here from basically start of March until close to the end of March, even that mid to April. Shorts are built up. Basically, it washed out. The previous low around 780.82 or so. You see washed out this previous low and then bounced. As soon as you get this high low in here, you know that there's going to be a squeeze on, and then it's from there, it's just to try to check out where it could be going to, what's going to happen, what's the latest price action. So for me, this trumps the double top, and especially the fact that we've held some higher lows up into this zone to 1882. We pulled back, and we did a very similar thing here. I don't think we really washed out. No, we didn't wash it out, but we obviously found some selling there. So you're going to get people, again, we're coming up to the resistance zone, chuck a sell order on the offer and just sit there. They might get triggered. They may get stopped out. Obviously they're going to have, once they sell in here, they're going to have the stops above that zone, because, okay, if they get stopped out, then the risk is it's just going to keep going. You want out. So the way they trade, the way there's a lot of traders that will trade there, just sit on the offer. Whereas I would much rather see a reaction off that zone, pull back, build a lower high, and then go, then potentially look to go, which arguably could have been through 1839 or so, stop above the lower height, because once you get, a third touch up there, say up near a resistance zone, and then you get your lower high build, then you're going to get something like this potentially, just like we spoke about a second ago. And then that could take us either down to the bottom end of the range, which is potentially back down to 1784 or through. But by then, if it doesn't go through and you get the bounce back off there again, then you're up quite a bit. You lock it in, lock in the partial, just see what happens. So, like I said, you do get some selling in there. The stop's going to be above. But then what you've got, this is nice little high low that built. that formed at 1840, and that's triggered taken out anyone that's been selling it up here or selling off this level, preempting a lower high, has been squeezed out of the market. So from now, it'd be interesting to see if we can start triggering a few exits up here, or it's going to bring in a few bulls as well to start ticking the market higher. But that longer term price action is looking quite good on Aussie gold. You've got a massive, nice long term high low here with your washout, little minor high low here. So potentially, if you can project lows to highs, you could have from lows to highs, you could be somewhere up, I'm just guessing, 2000, 2050. I think that's 2050. Is that the case? Somewhere up here. Let's just do it. So if that's your volatility, if we're measuring that, I've got it's a lot higher, isn't it? 2060, say. Could be a leg. We could be looking at a leg right up there because this is a key zone from, you can see way back we've broken. We've held it. If anyone's bearish on gold, 3 times here, we're starting to break that level too. After breaking this major high, you've got all this sort of price action starting to curve up. We'll get a better look if we do that. Go away. So you can see that. That's for me, that's quite bullish price action. This is a nice high low. Potentially, we're looking for that leg up. We could be looking up to a 2060 zone or 2050, give or take. And that's a long way to go from here. So there could be a lot of upside on gold. We'll just have to see. I mean, that's the premise, but again, we have to wait and see how it plays out. Now, just looking at gold, USD, that was Aussie gold we're talking about. This is what I'm basically looking at on gold. You've had, this is a daily, yep. This top price section here bounced up. It's a good reaction off here. So that sort of negated that downtrend. We found some support, and that's probably a weekly trend line, what we're seeing just there. Bounced up, started contracting. You can see we've got a clear resistance zone up towards 1374. The market pressed up here, found some selling pressure. So at this stage, when we're punching down here, I was starting to get a bit bearish on gold, especially when the US was rallying. You can see we come off this is a major lower high here, and we just broke and potentially this uptrend. Let's just see if it actually is the weekly. Yeah, so you can see this weekly price action is probably, we only just pushed through it really in the scheme of things. Back to the daily. So at that stage, I mean, you could arguably get bearish on that. You look for the market to pop up, 1, 2, that move up, hold a lower high, and then press down and really take out, the lows. A lot of these lows that have been built out, or the buys that have been built up on a little pop, roll over, squeeze them out for a move down to and potentially through 1125. But instead, it just kept grinding higher as tariffs kicked off, trade wars kicked off, and we've got the market contracting off the highs. That was probably in line to, with what was happening in the US dollar. I think people buying into the US dollar, pressuring any moves higher on gold, and also news that potentially they were coming closer to a deal, and then it's sort of fallen apart and leading to a base being put in at around 1267, and we can just see that contraction. We've got a bit ahead of ourselves up here, contracting lower, coming back to a buy zone, a perfect little buy zone, holding a level at 1267 support zone, and started to break out. So it's breaking to the top side out of that contraction. So this, I would expect, maybe a run to the highs, and one of those 1344, potentially to 73. So there is a bit of leg room on the upside too for this move. If we're right, if that's the way it's going to play out. I mean, of course, we could be completely wrong if Trump just gets on Twitter again, if he gets bored and he starts saying, I'm not going to do something, I'm not going to do this, China, we're going to make a deal, But I think the problem is I see him as too pig-headed and too stubborn to back down. And if he doesn't back down, it means China's got to, and I see them pretty much the same way. Their rhetoric now has changed. Basically, they were saying on yesterday, okay, we're happy, our communication lines are open, we're happy to talk, but at the same time, if US doesn't come to the table, we're happy to fight. And their theory is fight to the death, fight to the end, the bitter end. So they would have a few things up their sleeve to fight back if tariffs don't come down or if they increase, all that sort of stuff. So it really could lead to more, I say, a prolonged trade war. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the people who are paying the US citizens, they're not China's probably slowing down in business. It may be hurting their business, but all the tariffs he bangs on about, the tariff money that he's collecting is not from China, it's from the US. You know, they will export at the same price, chuck the tariffs on, all of a sudden it comes to the consumer at the higher prices. They're still paying unless they slow down. But in essence, all they're doing is collecting money from their own citizens. So it's really hurting the US more than anyone else. Obviously, it's hurting China too, but um, so I don't know. I don't think it's going to be. It's not good for the economy, the US economy anyway. Slow down. That's why they're talking about rate cuts. Even the Fed Reserve is banging on that now, where inflation's easing because the longer this goes on, the more it's going to hurt the economy, slowing growth. Potentially, there's going to be. They're always worried about jobs in the US. Potentially, that's going to drag on jobs as well. Unemployment could start to rise. Job cuts. Companies don't do well, and also what it does with companies, if they don't know, if they're not certain what's going to happen, why would you bother having your plan or implementing a potential growth plan? You'd be easing off on any growth plans that you do have and just waiting to see what happens. You're not going to invest in something you not know if it's going to stay the same or it's going to change or what your future or what the landscape is. So that's what I think. That's my theory. I hope you agree, because if you don't, I'll turn you off. All right, let's get on to any questions there, guys. Does anyone sort of agree? So that's why I've just got a bit of a focus on gold. I think I've seen a few charts, a few stocks that are, where's my mouse, that are looking quite handy. I'll go left, here we go. So if we make that a bit thicker. So again, this is just the Aussie market. I mean, you can see that's still a trend up until we break 6,200. It's as clear as that. You've got the markets pressured up. We've got the 64, backed off 62, 200-point drop, really powered on the 65, took out the highs. So this little washout was just a washout of previous highs in September. Was the end of August, start of September, when the market rolled over. So, of course, you expect a bit of a, we don't, it's really hard for the index or anyone, most indexes don't just power through and just keep on going. They generally wash them out, pull back into the zone, build a high low, go again, and be a bit more controlled, the price action a bit more controlled. We saw a good pullback, again, leading to a rally up. So a lot of heat's going to come out of that move, and that was a powerful move, quite a strong move. Kicked on from 62 to 65, 300-point rally. A little minor lower high here, would have brought in the bears. And of course, if you just read the news and you're not trading what you see and you're just listening to the noise out there, it's going to bring in some selling, and there's going to be people, and it happens all the time. That's where you try to clear yourself away from what you're reading and being biased in the market and just trading what you see. At the moment, there's no real need to load up on shares, but the trend is still up on the daily until something significant happens, and we haven't seen it getting poleaxed where you may have back in September last year. And then again after that, that was pretty clear what's happening there. This was a different sell-off to what we're seeing now. And we broke levels. We broke some key levels, support levels. We broke the uptrend. We broke down there. We broke down here. It was prior to that. Then we washed out the highs and then took off. So the price action is completely different. So we are still up in an uptrend. And we could be just simply coming into, bouncing off this is a 50 MA. Didn't bounce off the 20. Could bounce off to 50, could wash it out and bounce. Could be a buy zone. We don't know just yet. So really just trying to assess what's happening, but I still believe we've seen some good gold stocks. So if we just go to, where do I have them? So the ones we got at the moment, oops, don't do that. I'm worried when it does that, it's going to drop out. No, all good so far, so good. So you can see SLR, that's doing quite well. If you go to the weekly, get rid of all this. That's one we got there. That's a good trend. I think we've had a good run up. End of September 2016, started 2017, big sell-off, cleaned out a lot of these late buys, started to build to just below 90, pull back another high low. You can see a little washout is about here. This little washout of previous zones is really just picked an inside level from the previous run up.